Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Murray, and I'm the Director of Life Planning at Vistamar School in El Segundo, California, and I'm also the Chair of the Data Trends and Analytics Committee for Axis. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Common Data Set, which is accessible on most college and university websites. Through a quick Google search, you can often input the school name and the term Common Data Set, and you'll quickly navigate to their institutional research page. Once there, you'll see a date range of several years, and this gives you some historical context on the institution and may provide you with data that's really necessary for you to share with your students or to inform the way that you're advising them. So for those that don't know, the Common Data Set is a standardized template that schools use, and it allows us as college counselors to quickly access information that might otherwise be buried 20 or 30 clicks into a website or may not be available at all. So the Common Data Set for me has become a really vital tool to just quickly reference data points, and I've started to encourage my students to utilize it as well, with some disclaimers about the validity of data and also the ways in which it does lag behind by a year. So using the Common Data Set does not necessarily mean that the institutional practices reflected in one data set will remain constant for the next year. But in most cases, you'll see as we talk that there's really great information here to share. So the Common Data Set is broken out into several different categories. The first is grouping A, which is general information. This is your standard content that you'd need to know about any school. Is it public or private? Is it co-ed? Are they on a semester, quarter, trimester, or other? And in the case of my example school, Colorado College, they fall under other because of their block plan, which they reference here. This is really great for students who might need to know whether or not they're on a quarter or a semester based on their learning profile, and this could potentially serve them better or be a place that might not be a fit. As we scroll down, we see a lot of other information that's commonly accessible. When are students, or which types of students are applying? Who are they? Are they coming in as transfers, first-time freshmen? What's the gender breakdown in students whose gender is not reflected in the common application? And so this is all great. As we scroll further, we get to section B, which gives you a little bit of information about graduation rates. We often have parents asking about return on investment and whether or not students are graduating in a timely manner. And this is going to reveal some of that information. And we see retention rates, which is also pretty critical. We get a little bit of a peek into their first year applicant breakdown by race and ethnicity, as well as the admissions requirements. How many units of each subject are required or recommended? This is a common question for students, especially when it comes to languages. Do they have to take that fourth year of a language? This is a good reference point to anchor your advising if a student's set on a particular college. Their basis for selection. This I love. Section C7 is one that I direct students to all the time because it has the relative importance of certain factors in the tangible and intangible elements of an application. And in the case of Colorado College, as is the case for many, the rigor of the secondary school record is very important, but you see that class rank is not as important for them. Academic GPA is considered important, but we don't see anything other than the academics as very important, so this is a great benchmark moment to share with students to talk about priorities. In the non-academic categories, this is where I'll send students to do a little bit of research. Does this school have interviews or offer them, or is it not considered at all? Where do extracurriculars fall? Most will say important or very important, but Colorado College is de-emphasizing some of the other factors like first gen, alumni relation, geographic residence, state residence, but they do also have level of applicants' interest. I've found schools that have that as important. Many do have it as considered, and then some don't. But this is where students can assess whether or not they need to be demonstrating interest with certain schools on their list. As we get further down, we start to get into the fun stuff, depending on your perspective. The SAT and ACT policies, as well as a bit of a breakdown about where students fall within their applicant pool. So you can see their 75th percentile, their 50th percentile, and their 25th percentile. So as you're advising students on whether or not to send test scores to a test optional school, this can give them a better, more narrowed view of what the data looks like for a particular institution. And most importantly, as we're entering into this test optional era, how many students submitted their test scores? What percent of students that were applying actually submitted a score, whether it was the SAT or the ACT? As we move down a little bit further, we're getting into the GPA score range at Colorado College. 44% of their students had a 4.0 or above. 32% were between a 3.75 and a 3.99, and they had almost no students in the 3.0 to 3.24. So without putting yourself into the conversation to receive criticism or skepticism from families, this is a great data point to share with them if you're talking to a student who might have a list that's not balanced. Their admissions policies with deadlines and dates and submissions is also available to you, and you can check out transfer admissions if that's relevant to you. Although most independent school counselors may not be working with these students, it is a useful resource if you do have students that are considering transfer options, especially for those in California, to just let them know what the landscape looks like for that particular school if they have ambitions of transferring to it. The academic offerings, I find this is really helpful as well. It's not a comprehensive list by any means, but it does reflect where schools are showcasing what they offer. If they're choosing to put it here, it probably does reflect that that's an institutional priority. Student life, this is a great place to find out what kinds of activities and involvement there is on campus, whether it's Greek life or living and learning communities, specialty housing options. They have college-owned cottages, which is a cool thing, and apartments for single students. So these might be useful tidbits to share with your students. And then we get down to annual expenses, which to varying degrees is incomplete for some schools. They don't have to report everything out, but many choose to. So this is the quick rundown of the common data set. I hope that you'll start to explore it a little bit more, utilize it in your college counseling and advising, and encourage your students and families to learn how to use it as a resource that can accompany a lot of the other search functions available to them, as well as your counsel. So thank you.